Ignatius Loyola made a remarkable journey. His journey teaches us how we can find God in all things. Father Russell Pollard looks at the life of Saint Ignatius.
Inigo Lopez de Loyola, or Ignatius of Loyola as he is called, was born at the castle of Loyola in the Basque country in the northeast of Spain in 1491. He was born during the reign of King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. He was the youngest of 13, and his mother died when he was still very small. His father died when he was 16 years old. But we are told that even at the age of 16, Ignatius was well aware of his noble origins. He was brought up to be a courtier, someone who served in the royal courts, and he was set to enter the diplomatic service of the crown. We're told that Ignatius was a fancy dresser, that he liked fame and glory. He liked the ladies too, and was very much worried about his appearance. In other words, he had an ego. He was sensitive to insult. In 1521, the French attacked the fortress town of Pamplona, and a small band of Spanish soldiers tried to fight them off, Ignatius being one of them. But they were not going to be successful. They were completely outnumbered, and the soldiers were ready to raise the white flag and put an end to the fight. But Ignatius was not going to allow that to happen. He was too proud. And so he gave a passionate speech to those soldiers, which encouraged them to fight on. And that's what they did. But Ignatius, during that fight, was struck by a cannonball, which shattered his right leg. The French so admired his courage to continue fighting that they offered, after he'd been struck by the cannonball, to carry him back to the castle at Loyola, where he would get medical treatment. It wasn't just Ignatius's right leg that was shattered, but also his ego, his vanity was shattered. Ignatius went back to the castle of Loyola, and the doctors worked on his leg. They reset his leg. But Ignatius noticed that there was still a bone protruding when he put his stockings on after the operation. And because he was worried about his appearance, he called the doctors back and insisted that they break the leg and they reset it. Now you need to remember, there was no anesthetic in those days. And we are told that the second operation was even more painful than the first. Then Ignatius spends a long time convalescing at the castle in Loyola. And he asks for books to read, hoping that they've got romance novels and stories of chivalry. But the only books that are available in the castle at Loyola are Ludolf of Saxony's Life of Christ and a Lives of the Saints. And so, with nothing else to read, Ignatius embarks upon reading these books. And he alternates thinking about and daydreaming, we are told, for even 3, 4, 5 hours a day about being a knight, being in the service of the crown, getting honor and glory for what he does. And on the other hand, imitating the lives of the saints. And Ignatius begins to notice something else, that when he thinks about the lives of the saints and imitating the saints, there is an enduring happiness that he does not experience when he thinks about being in the service of the crown, being a knight, making sure that he is honored and decorated for what he does. And slowly Ignatius comes to recognize that God talks to us through our feelings and our imaginations. And this is the beginning of his conversion. God leads through the imagination and feelings, a key insight which Ignatius has. And so he pays attention to those feelings. He pays attention to what is going on in his imagination. He then notices something even deeper, that when he does think about imitating one of the saints, there is an increase in faith and in hope and in love. On the other hand, when he thinks about being honored and working in the courts of the crown, after a while, there is a decrease in faith, in hope, and in love. And so, paying attention to what God is doing inside of us is a key insight that Ignatius Loyola offers us. He tells us that God speaks to us through our longings and desires. And therefore, the discernment of God's will begins in the feelings and in our own imagination. Now, the story of Ignatius continues, and there's much more to say. But for now, we are going to stop there. You're going to be invited to continue the journey by learning more about the story as we go along. You'll notice in this wonderful depiction, we are told a little bit about Ignatius's life, the three parts of Ignatius's life: before his conversion, and life after his conversion. And the story you've looked at today basically touches on simply his life before conversion. We see here an entanglement, that Ignatius is entangled with all his desires for what is going on in the world. He wants to be famous. He wants to have honor and glory. And slowly he emerges out of that entanglement. We see the dark side of his face, where he is entangled in this world of honor and glory and fame, emerging much lighter. The bird depicting a new freedom that Ignatius finds, that he is illuminated as he lies on that bed in the castle of Loyola. And then Ignatius moves out of that. And you will soon hear more about his story. And this part of the picture tells us how Ignatius learns slowly the process of conversion, but also the contemplative life. And we see on this side of the picture the cannonball that began the whole journey for Ignatius, but the cannonball too that propels his conversion. As you continue on this journey of Hearts on Fire, you will no doubt learn more about the journey of Ignatius. But begin now to think about your own feelings and your imagination and what God might be saying to you.